I'm staring at 3 different reflections of myself. It's Sewalong week 2 for the Stitch and Stash Tote by Knot and Thread Designs. This is our pattern. This is what we get to actually start stitching on today. So last week our homework was quilting our fabrics, our panels, and cutting them out. So make sure that if you didn't get your homework done, like I just saw my friend Kelly do, because you fell on Saturday. Oh no, I hope you're okay. If you didn't get your homework done, I feel like this sew along is spaced out enough. You have plenty of time to catch back up. So get your quilting done, and then this week we start sewing. So here we go. I've labeled my pattern so that I know where to stop, because you know we might just get too into it and just full steam ahead start sewing. So the week 2, we are making our handles. We are binding our bag front panel, bag back panel, and the back slip pocket panel. And then we are attaching our panel or our handles to our panels. I feel like that is a major tongue twister, but that is what we are going to do this week. So let's just dive right in. All of our kits that we sold used webbing, which means you don't have any special prep to do for your handles. They just come ready to go. You don't have to top stitch unless you want to. It's fun, just for fun. But they are just ready to sew in. So someone says I can comment. I'm not sure. That is a great question. Can you send us an email and we can look into that? Everybody's behind. That's okay. That's okay. You have time to catch up this week. So first up, we are making our handles. So we are using webbing, and it says skip to step 4. Now, stepping on my soapbox for just a moment. We are not sharing patterns with friends. We're not photocopying our pattern with friends. We're buying our own copy. We're reading our own copy, right? We don't need Caitlin at Knot and Threads to not like us. We like her. We like her patterns. So we're skipping to step 4. So you won't hear me say every little bit of the pattern. We can't do that. So you should be following along on your pattern. I am on page 4, the top right hand section. Try to get all my stuff situated here. So we are marking in from each edge, and we're being very careful because we're using a Quilter Select ruler that is marked both ways. This is where my cutting almost got me good. I was cutting with the ruler that you can use it either way. It's great for right-handed, it's fine for left-handed. You have to be careful that you're not reading the wrong direction on the ruler. So with that in mind, we are marking this many inches in, and I'm using a Sewline Trio pen. My bag does not have any pink in it at all, so I'm using the pink lead, and we're double on YouTube again today. So hi to my YouTube friends, and then hi to my video friends on our website. So if I look like my eyes are going back and forth, they are. So we're marking so many inches in on the sides, which is where we are going to end up folding the webbing in half and then stitching. I believe it says 1/8 of an inch in. Whoops. I tend to be really rough on this pencil lead. There we go. They tend to break a lot for me. So I marked my ends, and then we're gonna pinch it along those ends and all the way in between, and then we're going to top stitch a pretty stitch all the way across the edge, which I'll show you exactly what that looks like in just a second. I am sewing on a Janome HD9. It is discontinued. They just discontinued it because they came out with a newer updated version. So if you're looking for a really good heavy duty machine for bag making, highly recommend this one. This is what I sew on at home too. I'm just lucky enough to have one here at the store that is identical to my home machine. How many people can say that? So we're just gonna scooch this big honking thing here. Going to, because when I get to my other side, I'm not gonna know where that mark is because it's on the inside. I'm going to mark it on both sides. and only on 1/2 because I can start it on this one and know where I'm at. Maybe we'll mark it for fun anyway, just to be careful. Okay, so we're starting there. We're just pinching it in half as we go. This is where our wonder clips come in handy. You could pin this. I wouldn't, but you could. I tend to poke myself with pins more than anything, which is why I'm so against them. So when we are doing the stitch along the edge, I like a little bit of a longer stitch length here, and then we're just gonna go nice and slow. I'm gonna put my needle down right on that mark I just made with my pencil. We are folding the webbing as we go, just a few inches at a time, and whoops, we're gonna back stitch a little bit at the beginning of our seam here and at the very end, just to lock those stitches in. This is the last thing you want unraveling on your bag. It will not look good. I like to make sure that my needle is down when I'm stopped. That way, when I'm readjusting my webbing, which I'm going to be doing a lot of, my web strap doesn't move. This is where my Teflon foot would come in handy too. If you've got one of those, you should put that on for this part so it glides right through it. I noticed mine getting hung up a little bit there at the beginning. I don't know if I've ever worked with webbing that was kind of slippery like this. I tend to work with mostly cotton webbing. I don't know that I've done any poly webbing, so this is new to me. My practice bag that's sitting over here was cotton, so this is more like belting, like a seat belt. Just a few inches at a time. Ooh, that scared me. Gotta be getting close here, wait. Okay. Bobbin area keeps, it's right where I'm pushing it. It's popped up twice now. So stitching right to my line here, going back just a couple stitches, and then we're gonna cut. So it looks like this when we're done. You can see that little bit longer stitch length. I feel like it's more forgiving just across the board. But yeah, nice. Now we get to do the other one. So we'll put that aside. You don't like to use this kind because it slips off your shoulder. That's genius. I think it's fun and it feels good on your hands. I feel like it would wear better than cotton. Like it would hold up to a little bit more. But yeah, I could see it slipping off your shoulder for sure. This is not what I would use for a diaper bag when your hands are really full. That's the last material we'd want to use. Okay, but it's pretty. They print the coolest things on the belting, not on the cotton, in my very humble opinion. I'm gonna mark this one on both sides so we can see it when we get to that side. There it is. Doing our best to pinch it directly in half without a twist. Needle down directly on our start point. Forward and back a couple stitches. There we go. And now we're home free to stitch all the way across to our other pink line. Oh, I was almost right on my line. Didn't see it. It's like, I had to be getting close. Yeah. There it is. Almost stitched right past it. And then we would have had to rip out stitches on belting, and I can't imagine that's very fun. So there is our second strap. Same thing with that top stitching. I'm trying to get it to reflect off the light, but there we go. So there's those. We toss those aside. What I like to do when I'm at home is pin them up. I love to, I talked about when we were cutting, I like to label and then pin them up on my design wall right to my left so that I can see all my pieces, so that I know that I've used everything. And it also is just kind of a little pat on the back every time you feel a little bit buried by your pattern. You can look up and see everything that you've accomplished and then keep going. So moving on to our step 2 here, we're gonna bind the bag front, the bag back, and the bag slip pocket. Those of you that are afraid of quilt binding, this is so much easier. Don't fret, not even a little bit. So something I maybe should have done but didn't do, I did not press my strips in half. We're just gonna go with it. It is just fine. If you wanted to, you could do like a very quick press with just your fingers, just pressing it in half, kind of like you do to make your bias tape, not bias tape, your binding strip. So you can press it loosely in half so that it kind of has a half of a press, but I don't find that it's necessary, so I don't always do it. Welcome to Bags with Hannah. Okay, there's our gusset strips. I'm gonna put those on the floor for right now. My pockets are here, and my, just double checking that my back slip pocket is the bigger of the two. Okay, so I'm gonna put my smaller of the two pockets on the floor with my gussets so that I don't accidentally bind that one yet. Now here's where you have to be careful using your directional fabrics. If you have, my one for the demo is the Halloween one. So if you ordered the Halloween kit, you're gonna see what it looks like before you get to sew it together. So I'm sorry I'm stealing a little bit of your thunder, but you wanna make sure that you're gonna bind the top side, not the bottom. We're binding the top. And we start on the lining side. So lining side up, we take one of our accent lining pieces. It tells you how big to cut those. Line it up on the edge and dial my stitch length back down. Line up raw edges together, back stitching a little bit at the beginning. I use just a quarter inch seam allowance here. Back stitching at the end and cutting. So it looks like this, just like a binding strip would if you stitched it on the wrong side of a quilt. Now my very, very favorite thing in the entire world to do is to take this back to my iron. Anne taught me this. Take it back to your iron, lining side up, and you press the binding up and away. It takes out all of the slack that you would have here on accident. And when you're binding bags, you don't have a lot of slack like you do with the 2.5 inch strips. These are 2-inch binding strips. So it brings, when you bring it around like this, it just makes it so much simpler. And when it's ironed, it's nice and crisp. And a lot of times it just kind of falls over that way. So 10 out of 10 would do that if I had an iron right next to me, but otherwise you can just put your panel on the table in front of you and just push up and away with your hands, being careful not to really squish it because it'll bend and it'll twist. So straight up. So then we're going to pull it around and we're going to top stitch an 1/8 inch in on the right side of the fabric, and this is where we're going to dial our stitch length up again. I like about 3. I think 3 looks nice. I put my needle down to hold it in place so I could dial up my stitch length. Just a couple stitches for back stitching there. And this is where wonder clips really come in handy as well. I just tend to not use them. They slow me down. if we're being honest. That's really all I have against them, is they slow me down. Tucking in those loose threads as we go along. If they really bug you, you can do what I call giving your quilt or your bag a haircut. But otherwise, you can just keep sewing. I thought my machine did skip a stitch. That's all right. No idea why, because it felt like it. So when you top stitch, it looks like, there it is. You can kind of see it. Just a perfect little top stitch, and then there's no slack in your binding. There's no empty space. So it just looks like a good, clean binding. I did cut my strip a tiny, tiny bit too long. So we're going to steal a pair of Rich's scissors. Nothing could be as dull as the ones that, ooh, those are nice. If anybody was with me my last sew along when I was trying to hack a zipper in half with the dullest pair of scissors in the store. But anyway, if it's too long, trim it, or trim it flush enough. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's going to be sewn into your bag, but you don't want a big floppy tail at the end. So I did my slit pocket first. It doesn't really matter who goes first. They're all going to be done eventually. So there's my back slip pocket. That's when I would pin up on the wall with its label, because that is the pocket that I forgot. I forgot to sew it in on my demo bag, and then I had left my seam ripper here at the store. So I was kind of stuck until I came back up to get my seam ripper. I was too stubborn to just come get it. I don't live that far from the store. Should have just done it, but I didn't, so I waited. I did a very loose finger press here with my next binding strip. We are going to take our bag front and bag, those are slippery, bag back panels, being careful to bind the top side of these as well, not the bottom. So everybody's right side up here. Starting on our lining side, doing the exact same thing. Dialing our stitch length back down. Someone turned the speed down. Might have been me. Back stitching at the end, putting it down in front of me, doing a good crisp kind of crease, just using your fingernail along that lining side of where we just stitched our binding strip on. There we go. Same deal. Flipping around to the front to stitch down, needle down to hold my spot, dial up my stitch length. Couple stitches back stitching, and then all the way across. Couple back stitches there at the end. We have our bound bag, front or back, doesn't matter yet. Trimming that tiny little extra bit of binding. And you want to be careful when you're doing that, that your back stitching went farther than what you're cutting off. You don't want to cut off your back stitching. That's no good. Okay. There's one. Here's the other. I'm going to do a quick little press just with my finger here on the table. Kind of use your fingernail to make it a little crisper, but you should do this with an iron. Don't do it with your fingers if you have an iron. That being said, my nephew helped me sew a new store sample on Sunday, and we did the whole thing without an iron. I was pretty impressed with us. Very careful not to twist any of our seams when we were sewing it together. Okay, loose press there, double checking that's the top. The last thing I want to do is sew it on the bottom. I don't have a seam ripper in here. I feel like that's tempting fate. Why don't I have multiple seam rippers? I have no idea, but I really truly only have the one. Whoops. Dialing my stitch length down. Okay. Got that sewn on, doing a little press upwards like I would if I had an iron. Using my fingernail. It works just fine. Okay. Wrapping my binding around to the right side for the last time today. Dialing my stitch length back up. Okay. Still got a little bit of a binding to trim there. That's all right. I'd rather trim it every time than not have enough. There we go. Okay, there we go. Last panel done. So we have our 3 panels bound and ready to attach our handles, right? Making sure we didn't skip anything. All right, bound those. Now our last section of the day is to attach the handles to the bag front and the bag back. I am regretting not bringing pins in with me today. That's okay. We'll make do. We'll be okay. That's all right. We'll make it work. It'll be all right. It's a little more slippery because of those handles, but we'll be a-okay. I'm not worried, so you shouldn't be either. Okay, so the first thing we're doing is marking lines in from the short sides. Can't tell you how much because that's against the rules. So I'm gonna start on the side I'm looking at, the left side, and we're gonna mark. I'm gonna flip my ruler so that it's on the edge I'm gonna be marking is the 1/2 inch side. So some of those rulers have an even inch side, like over here, and some of them have the 1/2. So I need so many and 1/2 inches in. So I don't have to, I can go on a solid line, if that makes sense. Marking that line straight. If you don't have lead, it won't mark. Fun fact. Ooh, that's nice. Okay, one side done. 2 sides. Okay, so marking in the edges. See if you guys can see these kind of, yeah. So there's my pink line over there. There's my pink line over here. I like chalk because it comes off, but chalk comes off, so you can't go and mark all your pieces and then walk away for a week and then come back and hope they're still very crisp for whatever reason. They're not there. So mark what you need and then sew what you need, and then kind of keep, I like to keep flopping back and forth. I like my lines to be as crisp as they can. So then our next step, so keeping my ruler on the inside of that line that I just marked. So like this, there, my bag side is down here. We're marking 2 different lines up from the bottom, and this is where we're gonna stitch our little X that just gives some extra support to the handle. So we are doing this many, making sure we're reading our ruler in the right direction. Whoops, broke my lead again. and this many. Just enough so that we can see it. That pink fades in more than you think it should. This one and this one. I'll do that again. Okay, so I've marked on both sides. You can not see it. The marks are here and here. Here we go, there's one. And then here's my lighting in here is not friendly for this. Here's my other one. So we're marking there and there on both sides. We did it on both sides. You'll just have to trust me it's there because it's silly. All right, so next we're gonna take one of our handles, right? Yes, it's the exact same thing. So we're gonna do one and then we're gonna do the other. Oh my goodness, you marked it with a friction pen, you left it in your car in the heat, and it erased all your markings because friction pens iron away, and the 12 months of your calendar. That's, I didn't know it worked on paper too. Oh, that's a giant bummer. Okay, so I don't have pins. If I did, we're going to attach our handles next. So they line up down here at the bottom side. The right side is where we bound it. I'm going to line it up along that pink line that you may or may not be able to see. And then we're going to stitch our X kind of in there. And I'll show you what that looks like here in just a second. So I'm going to stitch my straight line up from the bottom first, 1/8 of an inch in on my strap using my longer stitch length. I had to think about that. Longer stitch length. Back stitching a little bit at the beginning. Could you put it in the freezer? Could you? Okay. Keeping my strap right along that line. Oh, I think I stopped talking in the middle of my sentence. If I had pins, I would stick 2 pins down the length of my strap. I'll show you on the other side when we go to do that here. So here's what I like to do when I get to the X's. I don't necessarily like to do an X because I can never get the same stitch pattern. So what I like to do is on my 2 lines where I did my X's, it's at this many inches and this many inches. When I get here, I'll stitch across and come back, go to my top one, across, back, and across again to come down the other side. I'll show you that in just a second, but that's what I'm gonna do here. I don't like the X. I never like the look of the X's that I stitch. So across and back, and then we're gonna go up to our next line. Very carefully, foot up, needle down, lets you pivot right on the spot. Stitching straight across, back, and then across one more time so that we can stitch down the other side. I'm gonna move my strap out of the way, drop my foot, 1/8 of an inch in again. The 505 glue stick, that's a fantastic idea. I don't have one of those in here with me. We should try it on our next sew along. Once you get to the other half, it is so much in place. It works so well. Okay, so we have 1/2 of our strap stitched down. So what I did, is I went from here, up, I went to here, down, back, up, down, back, down, and down the bottom edge. Does that make sense? I showed it to the wrong camera first. Actually, I showed it to one camera. So here, all the way up to this marking right here, down, back, up, down, back, down, and all the way down across the strap. Easy peasy. Now this is tiny little thread I should have snipped along the way. I grabbed my good snips off the long arm. I didn't want to use my... What if they were dull? Okay, this is where we need to be careful not to twist our strap. So I put the strap down so that my folded side was to the back, if that makes sense. So this is what the other side looks like. This is the quote-unquote wrong side. There's that little triangle. So when we lay our strap down to do the other side, we are making very careful, or we're being very careful that we're not twisting our strap. So this is where I would stick my pins in kind of here-ish and here-ish, like a third of the way in on each side. I don't use very many, but that's just kind of my style. I don't use a lot of pins. I don't use a lot of Wonder Clips when I do use them. Less is more tends to work best for me, but it may not work best for you. So do what works best for you. My word is not law, I promise. All right, so starting on our other side, 1/8 of an inch in on our strap, needle down, a little bit of back stitching, making sure we're holding our strap right along that line that we drew with our chalk pen. On the inside of the line, I should specify that's on the inside of the line. I've done it where I've stitched the strap on the wrong side of the line and then you hold your panel up and you're like, that's not right. That's not what we want. All right, I'm at my first X line. I'm gonna stitch over to the other side and back, being very careful to backtrack along exactly where I just stitched. I don't like the repeat stitch line next to it. Pivoting, coming up to my second X line. Needle down, foot up, going across and back and across one more time. Now here is, if I was going to do the X, I would do it here. I would go down, up, and down, and then I'd have to close the rectangle and keep going. I don't like it, so I don't tend to do it. Otherwise, you could do exactly what I did on the other side here, and then you could go back and do the X later. If you mark it with a pencil, you're more likely to do a straight line. I've never seemed to think that through until I'm stitching a crooked X, and I don't like that at all. But that's just me. So there we go. There is our first bag side panel. Double checked that our handles aren't twisted. You want to find that now before your bag is assembled. So there we go. We're going to repeat this whole thing on the other side. I'm going to hang it on my reverse lever because I don't want to throw it on the floor and lose it. Okay, looking at our markings. And our pencil. First horizontal marking, broke my pencil lid. Second horizontal, reading the right part of the ruler again. Just about did it backwards. Okay. Next one, repeating the same thing on the other side, doing our whole line all the way up. And then so many inches up there and there. Okay, got that marked. Gonna take our other handle, snipping that tiny little thread that I didn't get the first time. Oop. It got tangled. Making sure that our strap is the correct side down on the inside of our marked line here. Inside of our marked line, doing that same thing, 1/8 inch in, stitching all the way up to that first horizontal hash mark we made, keeping our strap right on the vertical line. Making sure our strap is straight. Pivoting, stitching across and back, and going back to the rest of the top. Needle down, pivot. We're going across, back, and across one last time. And pivoting to make our way back down to the bottom of the bag. I suppose you could use double-sided tape here too if you're a double-sided tape fan. I don't know that I have any of that either though. I know I don't have any, well, I might have some at home, but I think it's for leather. Okay. Needle down. Repeating the same thing on our last strap side, making sure not to twist our strap. Right along that chalk line that we drew. First line. Cross and back. Up to our second line. There we go. And home free down to the end. There we go. Got our second one done. So they're identical at this point, your front side and your back side, but we've got our 2 bag halves ready to do. It looks like the pockets are next for next week. Not today, but next week. So there's what this week looks like. How long have I been going? 38 minutes, and I did a lot of talking. So you have time to catch up if you haven't already. And then that little bit doesn't take very long at all. Once your pieces are cut, it's like the prep on a bianni pattern. We talked about it before, where it takes a while to get your pieces ready to go, but once your pieces are ready to go, the rest of it tends to fly together really fast. So that's what we've got for today. If you are running into any trouble or you have questions, feel free to give the store a call. Our phones are set to ring between 8:30 a.m. and 12 o'clock p.m. Tuesday through Friday. Now, I will tell you, we've been having a little bit of trouble with our phones. We don't know why. We've checked everything. Sometimes it kicks you straight to voicemail, and it shouldn't. So please, if it does do that to you and it's within those business hours, Central Time, if I forgot to say that, please leave us a message so that we know that it didn't ring through and that you have a question for us. So there we go. That's what I have. Happy stitching this week. Let us know if you have questions, and we'll see you back here next week. Next week is the divided inner pockets, the front zipper pocket, which I think is my favorite part of the whole thing. And then we are shaping the bag front and bag back, which makes it sound a whole lot more complicated than it is. It's a really easy step, but it's a fun one to make it have those, to give it the shape down here so that it's not like a hard angle. It rounds it a little bit for our gusset. It'll make sewing in our gusset a lot easier when we get to that, which I believe is the week after. So happy stitching. Let us know if you have questions. We'll see you back here next week. Bye.